Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I know that it's always exciting to have a special guest, someone who could impart, knowledge on us, opportunities that are available, especially opportunities to gain better returns, improve our real estate portfolios. So tonight, that's part of what our guest will do. Ian will be presenting an opportunity that he has available through his company out in beautiful British Columbia. So we're going to really leave it up to you, Ian, tonight to, share all that you have with respect to your company and what you can, share with us in terms of a great investment opportunity. And then hopefully, if you're okay, we can ask questions along the way, maybe see if we could, get some more information, and it can be a great opportunity for either someone on the call tonight or anyone that's viewing the call after. Okay, so
Great.
yeah, as I said, I'm happy to leave it up to you because I thought you would share with us some of your bio and stats, and I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Andrea and Emma. Thank you for inviting me, and everybody who's on the call and everybody who plans to view it or eventually views it. I'm just going to share my screen here. What I work in the exempt market, and what that means is basically I work for a securities dealer called Waverly, which is Toronto-based actually, but there's 50 of us spread across the country that help investors invest in private equity opportunities. And for anybody that's never invested in private equity before, think of it as something kind of similar to traditional investing. Traditional investing involves usually publicly traded either funds or stocks and companies. We have to do many of the same things, or our responsibilities are very similar in terms of understanding the client and the financial situation of the clients we deal with. We follow the same know your client rules that banks and securities dealers follow, but the securities that we offer are not publicly traded; they're private. And so think of it like this. Private equity is really the opportunity to invest in private businesses across Canada, and we specialize in real estate related private businesses. So these could involve things like developments like what you see on your screen here, which is a development that we're going to talk about in Langford today as an example. They could involve pools of real estate that is already producing income, like rental apartments are quite popular. Mortgage investment funds. We have dental practices, car washes, public storage, all kinds of things. The thing about public equities is they offer a very big advantage in that they are liquid. So if you own a stock or a mutual fund and you decide that you would like to sell your investment, you can phone your dealer up, say sell it, get whatever the market price is, and 3 days later the money is in your account. With private equities, you do not have liquidity always. Sometimes you do, but quite often you don't. And that's considered by some to be a bit of a disadvantage. However, liquidity is a double-edged sword. And I'll give you for instance. Back in April 2020, when we were all going through COVID, many of us woke up one day to see our portfolios up by 10, 20, 30, even more percent. And that's the double-edged sword with publicly traded funds, is that you are dealing with an extra layer of mass psychology. So your investment might be worth X, but if the market's in a bad mood one day, it might be worth Y. And if the market's in a bad mood for a long time, it might be worth Y for a long time. It might take you a long time to sell it. So sometimes liquidity is a bit of an illusion. What I wanted to share with you today is a development out in British Columbia in Langford, BC, which is right beside Victoria. And if you're not familiar with it, I'll show you a map. If you haven't been out to Langford, you should really come out to Lotus Land because it is beautiful. Can you guys, I just want to make sure you're seeing my screen on yours. Is that right, Andrea?
Yes, I can see it now.
Awesome. Okay.
I apologize, I
So
muted. I can see your
yeah, no
screen,
problem.
yes.
Great. I was horrified there for a second. I've got several screens here and I thought I might be sharing the wrong screen, but it's good if you can see this. This is a map of British Columbia. And as you can see, Vancouver Island, the capital of Vancouver Island is Victoria, and the township of Langford is just outside of Victoria by about 20 minutes. And just a little bit of background here. Victoria is about 18 kilometers across the Strait of Juan de Fuca, now called the Salish Sea. Um, we've got a very big mountain range here. It's called the Olympic Peninsula. It's a World Heritage Site because there's a rainforest there. This is important because what happens is when the cold air comes off the Pacific, we get a lot of rain in these mountains here, and then those clouds kind of hold their peace until they get over here to Vancouver, and then we get a lot of rainfall in Vancouver. But the result for Victoria is, or the Victoria area, is that we get a very kind of a temperate climate. We get way less rainfall, and we get warmer winters and cooler summers. Consequently, we get a lot of people moving from the rest of the country to go there because it's a very temperate climate and a pleasant place to be. But our capital has not only the government as the main industry, but it has the Royal Pacific, the Pacific Naval Fleet headquarters there for the Royal Canadian Navy. It's a home to 3 universities. And if you take a close look at Victoria, you'll understand that there are a lot of impediments to building anymore. The natural one, of course, is the fact it's surrounded by water. And on the other side, right around here, we have a very rocky geography, so it makes it difficult to build. Around the rest of the area, we have provincial and regional parks, lakes, we have First Nations land, and we have agricultural land reserves. So as a consequence, the horizontal development is really done in Victoria. And what's happening is the development is now focused in Langford at a place just next to Langford called Colwood. So this is where everybody's going to develop. These are developer-friendly areas. The cities actually want the development. And, for you guys living in Ontario, for anybody viewing this living in Ontario, these distances might seem like nothing. I mean, it's 20 minutes to get from Langford to downtown Victoria, which is really nothing. We can't build over here because we have a water table, or sorry, a watershed, and very mountainous terrain, and then also mountainous terrain here. So this is kind of the last hurrah for development currently, is this area right here. So, as a consequence of everything I've just said to you, Langford is consistently in the top 5 of growth cities in Canada. It grew by 50% in a decade from in the period ending in 2022. Like I said, consistently in the top 5. Last couple of years, it's been the top 2, sort of usually time place with Kelowna, BC as well. So the opportunity that we're going to talk about today is the opportunity to participate in a one-off investment. It's a 3-phase high-rise development in downtown Langford. And the opportunity for investors is to participate in the first phase, which is the tower that you see the rendering of on the right-hand side here. And just to go back to the map and zoom in just a little bit as to where we're going to be. The town of Langford is right here. And there's a very pretty area called GlenLake. And there's a main thoroughfare right beside GlenLake called Souk Road. So the site for this development is right where you see this parking lot. There's a tap house there, a parking lot, and an auto repair shop currently. This is less than a block away from the GlenLake South Beach Park and GlenLake. It's also less than a block away from the famous Galloping Goose Trail, which is a 26-kilometer long walking and biking trail, which goes from, it's a recreational trail that runs from Langford through Victoria, BC, and then up to Saanich. So this is a really great area. It'll be right on a transit core. And the first two, if you're anywhere from the second floor up on the north side of this building, you will have a view straight across the lake all the way over to Bear Mountain, which is not far away, which is right here. And if you were facing south this way down here, and you're above the 12th floor, you will be looking clean over a hill and right across the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and you will be able to see the Olympic Peninsula over here. So some spectacular views, a very great location for this particular project. Just to be clear, in case I sound too salesy, I do not work for the developer. I work for Waverly Financial, which is the exempt market dealer. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the city and location, which I've just done. I'll talk a bit about the development itself, talk a bit about the market, and then what we're all here to learn about, which would be how to make money from this and what that looks like. So we've covered where it is. And just to reiterate, Victoria has tremendous growth. So does Langford. And Langford itself has some really good metrics. The value of the real estate is relatively affordable. Nothing, of course, in Canada these days is absolutely affordable, but relatively it is affordable. Property taxes are low. There's very little rain and snow there comparatively, and it's a temperate climate. There's lots of amenities in Langford. You don't have to leave Langford if you don't want to. All the big box stores are there, public library, recreation areas, recreation centers, and there's a high degree of walkability and bikeability in the area. So again, just another rendering of the tower. The one that we are going to talk about is the first phase on the right-hand side. And for anybody that's interested in construction, how the developer keeps the costs down in this particular development is they will be going down one layer for parking and 2 layers above ground for parking. And that's a big money saver because it prevents any chance of running into extra expenses if you hit a water table or something along those lines. So just a bit about Waverly. It's an award-winning exempt market dealer, as I said, based in Toronto. It's been in existence since 2012. A bit about me, I spent almost a decade working with a large asset management company helping financial advisors and financial planners build portfolios for their clients using managed money and mutual funds. And I made the switch to the exempt market in 2016. And our investment thesis with these different investments is high returns on a risk-adjusted basis, and we're looking for protection of capital. Knock on wood, nobody has ever lost their capital with a Waverly-related deal. I think Waverly has a very good due diligence process with 4 people that are engaged in vetting the issuers that we work with. And we have little to no correlation with public equities. That's the big selling feature, I think, of private equity is, private equities are valued based on the value of the underlying assets. And the beautiful thing with some of these investments that we offer, not this one here, but other investments, is many of them do have the opportunity to liquidate because they carry a float, or they have access to a credit facility to enable people to cash in their investment if they want to. So we look at Waverly for management teams with proven track records. And this particular group that we're going to talk about today, we're currently working through 2 other developments with them in Kelowna and super happy with the progress. One of them is about ready for occupancy. It's a project called 5 Crossings, which was sold out in May of 2020 in a period of less than a week. And by September 2020, say 2022. And by September 2022, it was under construction. And I will show you this short video here, which was shot about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it shows you that this particular development is almost ready for occupancy. We expect the new owners to move in by probably the middle to the late part of June next month. So we're very happy with them. This is tracking well ahead of budget, meaning that the investors are going to get a higher return than they were told to anticipate. And it's right on schedule in terms of construction. And their sales were precision-like. And it's the same sales team that was responsible for this development that is going to be responsible for the development in Langford. So this particular development, we expect to take 36 months approximately from now. And we expect the return to be about 55%. As I said, the project that is just wrapping up in Kelowna right now is running ahead of budget. And it's currently tracking at about a 72% return for the investors. So we're pretty happy with that. How does that happen? It happens if you get higher than you expect on the revenue side, and you do better than you expect on the expense side. One of the hallmarks of this particular issuer is that they do have a structure that is favorable for the investors. And one of the things that they do is they make the trust, or they put a mortgage charge on the underlying land assembly in the name of the trust. So what that means is that the investors have a little bit of extra security. If something were to happen to the investment, if it were to go awry somehow, the investors are considered to be creditors, and therefore a little bit higher up the food chain in terms of how they get looked after when money gets paid out. There's a strong database of registrants for these types of condos that are being built. The tower is going to be 12 I have to think about this for a sec. 24 stories, 240 units. That's what we're expecting here. The development team is not the same development team as the one that's doing Kelowna. It is a development team. If you were on the West Coast, you would know the companies that these people come from. Greg Zemrow, for instance, was the project manager for Bosa Developments, and prior to that, Intracorp. And Navi Jagpal is a commercial property developer running a family-run business for almost 3 decades. The two of them together have a lot of experience building mid and high-rise buildings. As I said, it's a planned 24-story building, 230 units. The building will be amenity laden, meaning that these days profitable units are smaller units. These are not going to be large units. They'll be affordably priced, and they will be smaller. However, the building itself will have very good amenities. And similar to what they've done in Kelowna, we're going to see a gym in there. We'll see a bike storage area with a bike workshop. We'll see a lounge. We will see conference room, shared work area, yoga pavilion, running track on the roof. Lots of things for people to do to create the community environment for them. There's a picture of the lounge, or a rendering of the lounge. When I say affordable, I don't mean affordable in the sense of public assistance. What I mean is affordable in the sense of what people in the area can afford. So what we see, you probably see this quite a bit in Toronto too. We see a lot of very high-priced real estate for sale and inventory, represented by the dark blue. And there's a bit of a dichotomy going on because, if you really look at it, quite often there's not that many people in the local markets that can actually afford that real estate that's for sale. And that's particularly true with Kelowna. But the thing about Kelowna is Kelowna gets a lot of people moving in from elsewhere that don't require a mortgage. So it really doesn't matter. They just pay cash for their house and move in. But we're designing this to appeal to and accommodate the people in the gray shaded area here. So, it's going to be affordable in terms of what people can afford. So we are pro forma-ing the development and basing it on prices in roughly the $400,000 to $700,000 range. Now, the budget shows project revenue of 134 million and total costs of 114 million, with a total profit or gross profit of 20 million. Now, one thing I just want to point out here, which is something that I really appreciated about the Kelowna developments, is both of them had a very large contingency. And in the case of the first development, that contingency has hardly been touched. The contingency, if you're unfamiliar with it, is just there to accommodate any higher than expected expenses in a development. And typical for developments is a number of somewhere around 3 to 5%. See that quite a bit. This number here is 12%. So 12% on hard costs is a very healthy contingency. It's always nice to see a conservative budget. The other thing I want to mention here is that the opportunity that we're talking about today is an opportunity for to participate in a portion of a $9 million raise. So this development is raising $9 million to go forward with it, and it produces a profit of 20 million. I also want to mention that there is $9 million of developer equity in place already, which is subordinated to the investor equity. So what that means is that when the development is finished, the investors will get their equity back first before any profits are paid and before the developer gets to take their money and move it towards the next phase. So that's also a measure of security here for the investors. So we talked about the fact that there's a mortgage charge in place in the trust, and the fact that there's 9 million of developer equity ahead of the 9 million that the investors are putting in. So two very significant things there to give people some comfort. Once the development is finished, there is a preferred return which has been accruing during the life of the development, and then there is a profit share. So the preferred return, which accrues during the term of the development, is 9.6%. And what that means is that once the capital is returned to the investors, so the sequence of events here is that, I'll just go to the next slide here, but the sequence is that the investors put their money in, the developer already have their equity in there, 9 million. So there's a total of 18.2 million of equity in the project. Project gets built. Once the project is built, the first thing that happens is the investors get their 9.2 million back. Then the developer gets their 9 million, which they will then go on to put into phase 2. And then there is a profit share that takes place. The first thing that happens is, out of those profits, 9.6% goes to the investors for the time that they've been in the investment. And then there is a profit share of 70-30. 70% of the profits going to the investors, 30% going to the issuer. And that's how we get that total return forecast of 55%. Now, the preferred return is important because it correctly aligns the investors in the developer group. What I mean by that is that time is money, and if there is an Achilles heel in development, there are many moving parts in development, but the Achilles heel that comes most often is timing and execution. So what we want to do here is make sure that investors have their money working for them the whole time that their money is tied up. And we want to make sure that the developer is incented to complete on time. So the longer the money is tied up, the longer the 9.6% accrues, and the less the share of profits becomes. So just means that the investors, can get their money out of here pretty much no matter what as time moves on. Want to mention that there is a targeted completion date of 36 months. This is RSP and TFSA eligible for those people that wish to invest in, through registered means if they want to. There's a $10,000 minimum, so it's a very modest amount of money if one wishes to get involved. I deal with private equity deals that, where the issuers ask for 50 or 75 or $100,000. This is $10,000. So, for somebody that has not done this before and they just want to dip their big toe in and see how it works, $10,000 makes that possible for most people. Another thing I want to mention here, especially since your group, Cheryl and Kemba, I'm sure your group is very interested in real estate and possibly even purchasing a pre-sale. You can do that. Obviously, you're an owner as being part of the development. And what that means is you get the privilege of being an owner in that you would get a copy of the floor plans and the pricing prior to the building going on pre-sales. So usually about 2 weeks before the development goes to pre-sales, investors get their copy of floor plans and pricing. They're asked to make a first, second, and third choice. And if you wish to go ahead, the beautiful thing is that the down payment that is required normally is offset by the amount of money that you have invested in the development. So as long as you've invested more than $25,000, you can participate in this program. And, I don't know what the down payment will be required at this point, but let's say it was 10%. You bought yourself a $400,000 condo, you invested $25,000. Maybe most buyers would have to put down, between $40,000 and $60,000, but you would have to put that amount down less the $25,000 that you had invested, and your money continues to work for you as the development goes forward. And then when it comes time to take possession of your new condo, you're able to put that money that you had invested toward the money that's required to close.
Ian,
Yes.
what happens to the ability to earn income on that 25,000?
You keep earning. That's what I mean by that.
Earning.
For a buyer who wishes to purchase, there are many people out there that have enjoyed purchasing pre-sales and done very well on them, but many of them don't realize that they're feeding the people that are investors in these developments. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to profit in the development, and you get to have your money working for you while you're waiting to take possession.
Okay, so that's good to know.
The developers that I talked about earlier, Navi and Greg, are just wrapping up another project in downtown Langford. So they're a known developer in Langford, and they did raise some money for this particular development, which was paid back about 2 years ago to the investors with profit. And they're completing the development right now. One thing I want to mention here is the disclaimer. We've talked about things that are forward facing. There are some projections in here which are, to the best of our knowledge, accurate. But of course, before making any investment decision, always read the offering material and consult with a dealing representative such as myself if you wish to discuss the securities. So with that, it's amazing how time flies. That's like almost 35 minutes. So I'll shut up now. If anybody would like to ask questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Yeah, I think anyone you can unmute and ask, just because I think that's satisfactory. If you rather type it in the chat, you can also do that.
I think there's a chat there.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, that was you.
Previous,
yeah.
But let me just see. Does your interest go towards? So I think it's similar to what I was asking. Kemba was just asking if the interest goes towards the down payment, but you were saying that they just continue to earn the interest, right?
That's right. So the And let me just be a bit more specific about that. When the time comes to take possession, the money that you had invested would be the money that rolls into or to offset the the deposit that's required to complete your purchase. The income that you made on the development itself is paid to you separately.
Yeah.
So it's actually the capital that you invest that gets used for the deposit.
Yeah, so your original principal, say
Yeah.
25,000 or whatever you've put in.
Right.
Andrea, you had a
So
question?
Yes, what I was gonna ask, for this type of high rise, is this new to the Langford, BC area, or are there others already that have been built?
I believe that's a very good question. I believe this will be the tallest building in Langford. This one. They're sort of mid-rises, and when I say rise, I mean taller than stories. But I believe the first 24-story building.
Mm.
Thank you.
Langford is very quickly. Reasons. Go ahead.
Sorry, Andrea, can I ask you why you asked that specific question? Like what your thoughts are in terms of the development?
No, because Durham region, they have several. That's where I am, and they have several high rises coming up. So I know the some of the population isn't too thrilled about it, and I was just curious if this was like something that people are used to, or if it's something that they're not used to. And
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll give you a little bit more background. So it is a very strong growth area, and historically, Langford has had a council led by a very pro-development mayor who was in place for 20 plus years. And he was recently voted out in the last civic election. This is about 2 years ago. But the council is still very, pro-development. The, development permits are, are issued by the city planning. They're not, they don't have to go for public hearings in front of council or anything like that. And they're very quick. Like, for instance, in Vancouver, it might take 2 to 3 years to get something to the point that in Langford would take 6 months. And the other thing I didn't mention here is that this development is quite a ways down the road compared to where we see them often. Often when we are offering a development, we might still be in the land acquisition stage. We might still be in the stage where we need to get zoning and development permits and building permits and all that stuff. We're past the zoning stage for this phase. We have a conditional development permit waiting on ratification by the planning department on the traffic study that's just been completed. So we expect that we'll be going into pre-sales sometime later this summer on this development.
Yeah, that's excellent. So the project is well on the way.
Yeah.
And you've got quite a bit raised already.
We're not we're not close to closing it. There's still plenty of room, but these raises have a cadence to them. They start out very strong, usually at the beginning, and then there's a bit of a lull, and then usually toward the end of the raise, everybody's racing to get in, and some people get out or get left out, kind of like musical chairs, but there's still time right now.
So you don't have a set date for like this?
No, you raise the money as it comes in.
Okay.
Excuse me. And it's coming in, relatively quickly, I would say. And yeah, it's doing fine.
Excellent. Yeah. Some of us have invested here in Ontario, so it's good to take a look at and see what else is available outside of Ontario. As you mentioned, the unit prices could start somewhere in Like, I mean, I don't think we know the numbers, but you're just saying in the 400,000 range, right?
Yeah, their intention is in the high threes to low sevens.
Okay.
And what always happens with these is you have a budget, and then the final pricing is usually determined just before you go to pre-sales. And that's where the marketing team comes in. And we have a pretty competent team. We have Ace Project Marketing, which is they've done several projects for this particular group and done very well at it. Just won some awards actually for the projects in Kelowna. So I think they'll
Is
do
there,
very well with this one too.
sorry, is there preferred pricing as well for investors, or it's just first option to?
It's first option. There is no discount to the investors, but it's first option. And if there is preferred pricing, it will occur, by accident, because what happened in Kelowna in the first one that I showed you that sold out in less than a week is that there were price increases during the pre-sales.
Mhm.
So it turned out that, some people that purchased early did get a break, but it wasn't by design.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes you're not sure on the pricing, right, at the outset, and
Yeah.
with demand, you can make adjustments. Kemba, did you have a question?
I did. Ian, I think when I chatted with you previously, you mentioned something in relation to how the units are set up. Do you have any information on that now?
Yeah,
Um,
are you talking about the suites within the suites? Is that what we're
yeah,
talking about?
yeah, the
Yeah.
suites. I thought that was an interesting design choice, and I thought it would be good for
Yeah.
anyone to learn
It's
about that.
the floor plans are not released yet, and they're still adjusting them. But you do bring up a good point, because this is a university in a college town, and Royal Roads University is literally, 8 minutes down the road from this neighborhood. And one thing that's happened in British Columbia is that there has been, because we've had such a crazy situation with shortage of places for accommodation. The provincial government, we have an NDP government here, they've cracked down on Airbnb suites. And
That
what
was my
they've
other
done
question.
is they've made it so that Airbnb suites can only be offered if they're within the confines of the principal residence of the person who's renting out the accommodation.
Mhm.
So what's happening is we're seeing developers, including this one, produce designs that are to accommodate this and to accommodate the local market. So what we will see is we will see some 2-bedroom configurations that involve a vestibule when you go in through the front door.
Mhm.
And when you go in, one half of the 2-bedroom will be on one side, it'll be fully self-contained, and then there will be a studio on the other side. And that studio will be one room with separate facilities if if the owner wishes to rent it out to a student or accommodate an in-law.
So I think that's very genius. Like, we have to work around what we're given. But does that, can the condominium corporation come in and put in other restrictions? Or is this something that you'll ensure that the condo board is favorable to the opportunity to do the short-term rental? Because it's one thing to have the city have one perspective, but if the condominium corporation has a different perspective, it still doesn't give the owner the right to rent it out for short-term purposes.
Well, maybe you guys might know something more about this than I do, but
I do.
yeah, but
I speak from
I
personal experience in Toronto.
because normally things like this are grandfathered into the the strata rules that are set out in the first place.
Yes.
I mean, I suppose it's possible that a strong majority later could decide on something else, but if part of the design of the building was to have in-law suites, it might be kind of difficult to do that. but
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
good to know from the the build and from
Yeah.
the builder's perspective that they're actually building in that investor mindset and that investor option, because it's not just about investor, it's also about making the units affordable, like you said at the outset, right? Affordable for the owners, and making accommodations to allow for someone who might not be able to afford their own apartment or space to have
Yeah.
access to something within their means of affordability.
Yeah, we're seeing these types of suites come up more and more right now, I've noticed. This developer's done another single family home development just north of this area by about half an hour.
Okay.
And those homes all have suites within the homes that
Okay.
they, that the owners or the tenants can sublease.
Yeah, and it helps everyone, like in that development that you speak to, as well as this one, right? It gives,
Yeah.
especially if there's a university community close by, it could be for you, students or faculty or staff, right? That
Yeah.
maybe need that access.
Or, if you've got an aging parent even, right? You
Mhm.
want to put that parent in the unit.
Yeah, it gives definitely gives more options for people to have opportunity to meet a variety of needs. That's awesome. Anyone else with questions or interests? Some people came in a little bit later, so you can always capture the outset of this. Ian was just sharing with us an investment opportunity to first be an investor in this project, but then to also an investor from the perspective of private lending out your money privately, and then as well to become an investor from the perspective of buying a unit at the stage where the builder begins to sell them first to investors who are in the project, and then later to the rest of the market. So I think
A lot of people don't know how these big buildings get built, but the money comes from essentially three places. There's developer equity. There's a portion of the pre-sales deposits, as long as insurance is in place. A portion of the pre-sales deposits can be used to build the building, offset the costs. And then there's usually either bank or alternative lender debt. So it's those three areas that the money comes from, and it's the equity portion that's being offered as participation here. So, developers, I mean, I don't know too many developers that have enough money that they can afford to develop, project after project like this. So this is where, investors come along, and, there's some very strong opportunities out there, and I think this is one of them.
And did you share the because I just want to see if we can summarize some of it. Did we say what the length of time for
36 months.
36?
Yeah.
So that's really quick turnaround.
Yep.
That's fairly short.
This is a high rise. It's going to be built out of concrete and steel. This particular development here in Kelowna, this has taken just under, it's about 20 months to build it. But this is a low rise that's made out of, wood and gypcrete and concrete. This particular one will take a little bit longer because of, its height, obviously. But again, it's further along than most of them are. The zoning's behind us. The development permit is almost ready to be issued any day now. And we expect to go to pre-sales in the summer.
Okay, excellent. I see
think Andrea had a question.
Yes, not about this development, but in terms of Waverly as a security dealer for private securities. Now, to own, to deal in the private securities, do you have to open up a separate account for dealing in private securities, separate from what your public account would be, or can you incorporate that into an investment account you already have?
That could be a complicated question, which I'll answer simply.
Okay.
First, well, I'll start with the complicated side first. We do have a partnership with a traditional securities portfolio manager who do public equities and portfolio management for people, and they offer consolidated statements for their clients. But for public equities, we are the facilitator of the transaction. So, when you deal with us, you're not giving us any money, and we're not, giving you statements of any kind. Once the transaction is complete, it's up to the issuer to issue the share certificates and provide the long-term accounting. Having said that, when it's time to make an investment, there are two things that we have to do. One is to do a know your client form, which is the same as what you would have to do with any bank or any securities dealer when you purchase securities. These are just, we ask questions about you financially just to make sure that it's a suitable investment. And then we do the subscription agreement. And, when it comes time to pay your money, you are paying the issuer directly. So you sort of have to have an account, but not really. Once everything is completed, I usually stay in touch with my investors. It's usually, contact from me every 3 to 6 months just to tell people what's going on, in addition to whatever it is that the issuer is providing. One thing I do have to say is that for anybody who's been through this before, private equity is sort of a paper-intensive business, a lot of forms to fill out. But the beautiful thing about Waverly is it has a state-of-the-art onboarding system. So when the time comes, if you wish to invest, we make an appointment together to share a screen via Zoom. And, at that point, I would ask you to share your screen, and I would give you the login coordinates, and we would do everything together online. And it takes usually about, 35 minutes. Anyway, that's how that works.
Yeah, so I'm Andrea, I think just similar to what we've done in the past. It's the same sort of process.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you do have so Ian, I don't know if you have the a slide or just or we can share with it in the email after how people can reach out to you to
Sure.
connect and get just get more information for their specific needs, because I believe you're offering this not just as cash option alone, but also registered funds as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my information, which I would be happy to, actually, I think I put everything on the email I sent you, Andrea and Kemba,
Yes, I
but
have it. That's what I was saying. I can share that as well.
yeah, this is the dealer right here. And actually, it's not the dealer. I apologize. Let me see what I've got here for you. Bear with me.
No, okay.
We can always to connect you with if you're interested in connecting with Ian, we can make the introduction as well.
Yeah, it's kind of almost embarrassing. I was at a web conference the other day, and somebody said to me, "Oh, do you have a card?" And the answer was, "No, I don't carry a card with me." But here, I'll show you my my coordinates right here.
Yeah, we don't, many people don't have cards today. You could use the QR codes on your phone. I think Blink is a free option that allows people to create a digital card. So there's lots of ways to provide your details.
I'm going to bring it up here. I just had it 2 seconds ago. There we go. So this is my information here. So my email address is itootill@waverlycf.com. And
yeah, I can bring up my slide with the information.
okay.
Can you see my screen?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so this, this is the information I think that Ian was trying to share so that you can take that from here, but we'll definitely share it in the email, and you'll also have this recording. And again, for those that missed it, the recording is, one way to gather the information, but absolutely reached out directly to Ian or let us know and we can connect you. Okay. So I think I'll just wrap with a reminder that we do have our next Thursday. We also have a information session with an event that you can participate in. It's a free registration, similar to tonight. It's free, just providing you with opportunities to hear more about what's available. That will be with Austin, so next week. So just let us know. I'll include it in the emailer just to give you the details to get registered and join us then too. But Ian, thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Sharing.
Appreciate you, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all very much for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a very short timeline for an investment of this nature, right? A build and development. 3 years is very, very quick, as we all know. It goes by fast, and so, yeah, and in a great area. Like, it just seemed like it makes sense where you're putting it with all those unique features built in. It gives your someone who wants to be owner occupied a great opportunity, as well as someone who wants to buy it for investment purposes. So
For sure. Hey guys, I put the link to the May 30th event in the chat. So if you want to it's free to register. You can just go on and register. If you know anyone who's interested in learning about more opportunities, if you could share the link as well in your network, that would be good, because it's free. Always take advantage of those free events.
yeah, and we'll have different opportunities as well. There's some new projects like the Langford one. It's a great
Langford.
opportunity to just look at, especially if you have registered or locked in assets that's just sitting, maybe not doing what you'd like it to, especially with, I don't know, the market's kind of here, there, and everywhere. Put your money to work for you, right? So thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you again, Ian, for taking the time to present to us. And, we look forward to seeing this project, and some of our members maybe consider it as an option, and not just from the initial stages here, but even at the end, at the end stage where you can buy a unit, right, and give yourself an opportunity to add to your portfolio. Okay, so thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.